A top official in Donald Trump's administration responsible for deporting migrants and separating families and executing on his depraved plan. He was caught on video accepting a giant bag of cash of $50,000 back in September of 2024 in a sting operation operated by the FBI under Joe Biden and Christopher Wray, the FBI director. Tom Homan, you know him. He goes on television like the Grim Reaper talking about crushing the souls of families and sending American children who are U.S. citizens to countries they never were born in or that they even know as a punishment for their parents being migrants in America. That Tom Homan. What Tom Homan apparently didn't know is that there was an FBI sting operation. He wasn't the target of it, mind you. Somebody else was the target of the sting operation by the Public Integrity Section of the Department of Justice. They were trying to get to the bottom of who was dirty and who was clean, who was taking bribes and who was rejecting them, you know, that kind of thing. And that target said that Tom Homan was dirty, that he was accepting bags of cash, literally, it turns out, in return for promises of quid pro quo, giving contracts at the federal level or directing work in a certain direction behind the scenes if he returned to power along with Donald Trump. So the FBI decided, well, that's interesting. Tom Homan had been in the Obama administration. He was already, at that point, had been tapped in September of 2024 before the election. He had already been tapped to be the border czar that Donald Trump bragged about. We're going to have the border czar, Tom Homan, over here. He's going to deport 11 million people with billions of dollars that I'm going to give him in my big, beautiful bill. That Tom Homan. And so now we've got the new reporting coming out of MSNBC. And you want to know what the reaction of MAGA is to it, like people in the ecosphere, like Megyn Kelly? We don't care about the bribery allegations against Tom Homan. Not that he didn't do it. Not that there's not a videotape that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are sitting on. Yet another scandalot has now returned to Washington with Donald Trump in charge. Not that he didn't do it, not that there's a defense, not that it was an AI-generated video of him that wasn't really him. No, we don't care. Well, you seem to care a lot when you spent an inordinate amount of money in taxpayer dollars and time and political capital to go after Joe Biden's kid, Hunter Biden, who wasn't even an elected official because he didn't change his last name and he got work as a result. We know you don't care. You've got a multi-billion-dollar heist going on, being operated out of the White House as we speak, and you're not doing a thing about it. You're worried about Hunter Biden getting some sort of stipend to be on a board? How about Tom Homan literally taking a bag of cash? I'm Michael Popok. You're here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. Let's get to Tom Homan, shall we? Now, just to remind you who Tom Homan is, besides the fact that he recently said the allegations are BS. Here's Mr. Charming now, so you can remember who this guy is. Let's play the clip.
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
Why should a child who is an American citizen have to pack up and move to a country that they don't know?
Because their parent obviously entered the country illegally, had a child knowing he was in the country illegally, so he created that crisis.
That guy. Border czar. 11 million people here just working, 99% of them just trying to make a living, trying to stay in the United States legally, paying billions of dollars in taxes, trying to give their children a better life than some of the other countries they came from. And Tom Homan has made it his mission to crush their souls, which is ironic that he's not a clean guy, apparently. So here's what happened. Back in September of 2024, remember those days when Joe Biden was in office and Merrick Garland, you may not have liked him, but he was at least he was at least an adult at the Department of Justice that wasn't corrupt. And you had Christopher Wray running the FBI. Remember those days? This is where the screen would get all wavy and we'd think back on some sort of Wayback Machine moment of the golden era. Yeah, then September, FBI gets a tip from the target. Now, let's be frank. The target rolls over on Tom Homan to save himself. Okay, drops a dime on Tom Homan. If he's not dirty, he's got nothing to worry about. So they decide, that's interesting. That's more than one person apparently that told us about Tom Homan. So they say, let's do, and here's the least sophisticated sting operation of all time. This is like basic. This is like, what was the thing that we used to have as kids where you could make a little brownie with a heat lamp? It wasn't Betty Crocker. It was like a little oven when you were a kid. You made a brownie with like almost no ingredients. It's like that. It was very simple. Somebody will put down what oven I'm thinking about. Take a bag of cash, put $50,000 cash in it. Knock on the door or email or set up a meeting with Tom Homan. Act like you're federal contractors looking to get more federal contracts. Start that conversation with Tom Homan while the video cameras are recording and audio is being recorded. At some point, ask for the quid pro quo. If we give you money, will you get us more contracts? Get the target, in this case Tom Homan, to admit that he will. Give him bag of cash. Now, Tom Homan said, I want to know where that bag of cash is today, by the way. I'm dead serious. Because from the reporting I'm seeing from MSNBC and other places, he took the money. Now, what he said to the federal contractors, the Fugazi federal contractors, was that I'll hold it in escrow to see if I get, come back into office with Trump. And if I do, at the end of my term, then I'll keep the money and you'll get to see if I paid you back, with new contracts, some version of that. That does not sanitize this or whitewash it or money launder it. It's not any better because he was going to hold it in escrow. Where's the escrow? Where's the money? Where's the receipts? This is what the oversight committees on the House and the Senate have to get down to the bottom of with Tom Homan. Okay? It's on video. There's a Western District of Texas grand jury that's up and running to indict him. And it gets killed because, let's be frank, if occasionally Joe Biden was a little bit too late. September is a little bit late in the game to be going after Tom Homan and then have Donald Trump come back into power. Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Emil Bovee, who's now on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, kill the investigation of Tom Homan. I mean, literally kill it. They don't want to know about public corruption. They don't want to know about... I defy you to tell me who's the head of the public integrity section of the Department of Justice. I don't think anybody exists. I think it's a cutout doll. It's a cutout, an inflatable doll, whatever, sitting in that chair. Nobody's doing public corruption, going after elected officials and federal and state officers to see if they're on the take. And the Trump administration, the entire administration is on the take. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. As someone with an active online presence, privacy is really important to me. I've seen how easy it is for my personal information like address, phone number, or even family members' names to end up online. And that can have real-world consequences. Have you ever been a victim of identity theft? I have. Harassment or doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. That's why I use Delete Me. With Delete Me, you can protect your personal privacy or even the privacy of your business from doxing attacks before sensitive information can be exploited. The New York Times Wirecutter has even named Delete Me their top pick for data removal services. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/legalaf and use promo code legalaf at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/legalaf and enter code legalaf at checkout. One more time, that's joindeleteme.com/legalaf, code legalaf. So, what's the reaction in MAGA world? Tom Homan says bullshit. I don't know which part is the BS. The cash, the bag that it was in, the fact that you accepted it. Are you claiming entrapment? Are you saying the video's not of you? And then Megyn Kelly comes out with the best I said at the top, which is, we don't care. We like our federal officials to be corrupt. That's the brand of federal official that we can get behind. I love the we don't care. Yeah, we get you don't care at all. Broad daylight. Now, let me give you the cross-examination that should happen in the House and the Senate. And I'm volunteering my services as a pretty good cross-examiner on my feet of somebody like Tom Homan to either committee. I'm happy. Ted Lieu, Jamie Raskin, congresspeople, senators, happy to help. Here's how I would walk through this as a practicing litigator. Mr. Homan, where were you in September of 2024? Do you remember having a meeting with people that you thought were federal contractors that identified themselves as federal contractors? Do you remember that meeting, sir? And during that meeting, there were discussions about the federal contractors wanting more business, right? Now, at that moment, you were not a federal officer. You were not a federal official. You were tapped to be the border czar, but you weren't the border czar. Can we agree on that? Yes. Okay. Now, you had the meeting. You took the meeting. And during the meeting, over a Cobb salad or whatever you ended up having that day, eventually the conversation turned to federal contracts. Isn't that right, sir? And at some point, these quote-unquote federal contractors offered you money in return for you directing work their way. Isn't that right, sir? He can say whatever he wants at this point. And at some point during the lunch, there was literally a bag of cash that they handed to you and you accepted, right, sir? Did you ever look in that bag of cash? Would it surprise you to know that there were $50,000 in that bag of cash? Now, you didn't know that that meeting was being recorded. You didn't know that there'd be a video evidence of it, did you, sir? So you were very open and honest during that discussion about your intentions. Now, during that meeting, you told the undercover agents that you were going to keep, who you thought were federal contractors, that you were going to keep the money in escrow. You're going to keep it in a trust account until, because you're an honest guy, right, sir? Just to make sure you got back into office. I guess you were going to return it if you didn't, right, sir? You weren't going to keep it for retirement fund or your grandchildren's college fund. And then you'd only spend it or take it out of escrow or trust after you were in office for a number of years. Is that right, sir? Did you give them a receipt for it? Were they named beneficiaries on the bank accounts that you deposited the money in to make sure? Was there a written contract or agreement to this effect? Now, what you didn't know is those were FBI undercover agents, did you, sir? And this was part of a sting. Now, since then, somebody did tell you in the Department of Justice and the FBI, sometime after Donald Trump got back into power, that there was an open investigation against you for bribery and under a sting operation, and there was even a grand jury in the Western District of Texas that was impaneled about you. Isn't that right, sir? And that got killed by the Department of Justice and the FBI. Not because you weren't guilty, but because they wanted to benefit you and cover up your corruption. Isn't this yet another example, sir, of a cover-up of corruption within the Trump administration that you're a party to? Ta-da! How long was that? 2 minutes? 3 minutes? And see, there in cross-examination, you don't care what the response is because you want the focus to be on the question. The hum-the-hum-the-hum-the in between don't matter. Because he's dead to rights. Now we've got to use this platform. We got to use MeidasTouch and all of our other powers joining together to go after the video. We need the video. Because Pam Bondi's never going to release that video. Just like she's not going to release volume 2 of Jack Smith's Mar-a-Lago investigation results, which she killed as Merrick Garland handed it to her. She threw it into a fireplace, I'm sure, an incinerator deep in the heart of the Department of Justice. Just like she's never releasing the Epstein files, she's never releasing the Tom Homan video, she's never releasing any of this. Yeah? But Pam Bondi better watch out. Because if Donald Trump's, who's clinging on to power with his fingernails, if that slips out of his grasp because of all the overreaching, because the race that he's already identified for you, we got to hurry up, Pam, and indict my political enemies, it's because he has a sense that he's on a very short track in a very short time interval before he loses his grip at the midterms, because all the polls that are in the trash, all the consumer confidence that's in the trash, all of the tariff polling around his economic policy in the trash, that if that not only catches up to him but surpasses him, he's done. He's toast up to and including the midterms. And if that happens, Pam Bondi, you're no longer the Attorney General of the United States. You're more like the Nixon Attorney General, Ehrlichman, who went to jail for 17 to 19 months. And that's what she's worried about as well. So keep doing Donald Trump's bidding, Pam, and sacrificing your ethics, if you ever had any, your professional duties, your officer of the court responsibilities on the altar of Donald Trump's lust for sheer naked power. I'm glad you're all here with me on MeidasTouch. I'm Michael Popok. I do about, let's say, 15 to 20 videos over here on MeidasTouch, co-founder of the Legal AF podcast, curator and co-founder of the Legal AF YouTube channel, and the same for the Legal AF Substack. So I'm glad you're here with us on MeidasTouch. We are bigger than they are. Our voices now need to be heard, and we will help your voice be heard by becoming a subscriber to MeidasTouch, to Legal AF, to Legal AF Substack, all that. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.